Hello, I'm Teresa Nunes, Conference Speaker Coordinator, and I will be introducing our first speaker, Rita Munn, who will be discussing routines, habits, and rituals that shape our days in the homeschool. During the talk, I invite you to type in your questions for Rita in the Q&A box, which you will find at the bottom of your screen. Rita Munn and her husband Ronald were blessed with 10 children and 10 grandchildren. She is an author and speaker and is now able to enjoy watching her grown children look back with fond shared memories of homeschool days. Today, she will be offering us a reflection on the importance of the ways in which we can set up our daily routines to guide the formation of our family's growth in faith and knowledge. Welcome, Rita.
Good morning. I'm so glad to be here. Let me take with you all a deep breath. Let's breathe in, breathe out. As a former childbirth instructor, I always find that I need to take a deep breath before I do something very important, like have a baby or give a talk. The theme of the conference this year is the good, the true, and the beautiful. And it fits right in with what I was going to speak about today, habits, routines, and rituals. Let's think about it for a minute. A habit is a regular tendency, especially one that is hard to give up. That would be the good, wouldn't it? We would like to teach our children good habits. Habits are unique to each family and individual as well. Here's an example. When children are young, they're very much problem solvers from the minute they come out of the womb. They find that crying is a way for them to get their needs met. As they mature, we'd like to see them give that up for a habit that says, I trust that you will answer my needs so I don't need to cry or whine. This is something that children have to learn. It's a habit that we have to instill in them. I hear mothers all the time say, I'm just going to let him or her cry it out. What habit are you instilling? You're teaching your child that there's a certain decibel of crying, or there's a certain amount of crying that will get their needs met. That's not a very positive habit. So we want to think about when we're teaching habits. I know all of you, especially now, are teaching your children to wash their hands, before they eat their meals. Buckling your seatbelt is a very good habit. So these are things, saying your prayers before meals. These are things that we want to instill in our child that become almost automatic, a habit. But here's the unique thing about grown children and habits. And I think this is a cute story. It kind of displays it. When my children went off to college, one of my daughters was living with her older brother and in an apartment. And in the middle of the day at 2 o'clock, he comes out of the kitchen with a big tub of ice cream and a huge spoon and a brownie. And he sits down on the couch and he says to my daughter, Maria, this is what it means to be an adult and to be on your own. You can eat ice cream whenever you want, as much as you want. Well, in our family, we had a habit of not eating ice cream during the day. It was just something I grew up with, and it was something I taught them. It was a habit. It was probably nonsense, but it was a habit. Well, it didn't take long before that extra 5 pounds made Maria see that maybe Martin's encouraging of breaking that good habit was not such a very positive thing. So when you are going about your day, I'm not here to tell you what habits you need to have as much as I want you to look at the habits your children have, especially in your homeschooling. What do you expect of them as a way of habit? For example, it was a responsibility of all the children. It was their habit to get their books out and put them at the kitchen table or the school table. And then when we were, ready, set, learn after breakfast, So it became a habit for them. And it was actually a time saver for me. I wasn't chasing them around trying to collect up all their things so that we could get started with the homeschool. So think about the habits that you're instilling. Also think about some of those, like we said, the whining or the crying, some of those negative habits. To say to a child, stop whining, is not a way to break that bad habit. The best way to break it is to reassure them that you'll be there, that you'll take care of their needs. And so I like to think that we break a bad habit with a positive reinforcement, not negative. The next thing you have here is true, the true. All right, this would be your routines. Now, let's think about that. Our routines have a certain amount of truth to them. A routine is different than a habit. A routine is a regular set of procedures that one would go through. For example, in the morning you get up, you brush your teeth, or something like that. You don't feel right till you've gone through that routine. For example, my husband was a Navy helicopter pilot. And one of their routines was to do a pre-flight check. And it was prescribed. It wasn't habit. They didn't do it out of habit. It was a specific routine. There was a sheet of paper or a book, and each step had to be performed. And then and they looked at the paper while they did it. And once this routine was accomplished, then they would have gotten through everything. That's the truth of a routine. One of my daughters is a surgical technician. She scrubs on surgery. And it was very interesting watching her go to college to learn to do this. And me as a nurse, I found it reassuring that some of those routines about hand washing and sterile technique hadn't changed in, the 100 years since I was in school. And Laura has found great. She's the baby of the 10. And if anybody would be able to follow a routine, it would be Laura. She finds great, how shall I say, joy in making sure that the routine is accomplished. In our homeschool, we always did certain subjects at the beginning of the day. Maybe it would be the ones that I felt the most challenged to teach or to help the children do, but we did have a routine of those things that we went through each day. So in the homeschool, I think, and always, I think it's very important to teach children there's a right way and there's a wrong way. This isn't habit, but there's a right way and there's a wrong way. One of our favorite little books that we used in the homeschool was written by a Mennonite family. And they had 2 daughters in this fictitious book, Esther and Rachel. And it was written for preschool. So it would be Rachel and Esther are going to do the dishes. And you would read it out loud. First, they put their aprons on. Then they scrape the dishes. And there was a set routine. My children loved that book. And as they got older, they would refer back, even as, teenagers, to the way Rachel and Esther did the dishes. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. I taught all of the children to sort their laundry. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. And so these little things that you teach children, these routines, your hope is that they will stay with them for a lifetime and that they will foster in eventual good habits. But these routines are a certain comfort to children. And certainly in the homeschool, children need boundaries and limits, and they need to know there's a right way and there's a wrong way. We can be a little bit, not quite as strict when we're teaching and different things, but there is a right way and the wrong way. My husband is an aerospace engineer. He teaches math in the homeschool, always did. He would say to the children, there's a right way and there's a wrong way. And it was, a nice thing that he was able to teach them the subjects and things with that routine that he was accustomed to. Me being a nurse, that was my background. I brought a lot of that to everything that I touch in our family. It is my comfort zone to know how the routine is going to work. One of the funniest things, and my children still do it when we're all together, we'll sit down to have our coffee or chat in the morning when they're home, and somebody invariably will say, "What are we going to do today?" That's the first thing. What are we going to do today? And the answer may be, well, we're going to go do shopping or whatever. But all of those things had to be done. When we just got back from our family beach vacation, we still had coffee in the morning. And one of my older sons he and his friends had a house a couple doors down, and he would come up to our house and he'd have the coffee and he would say, "What are we going to do today?" It just was so nice to hear him say that. And we would have a plan, a routine for how we were going to approach the day. But the main thing that I want to talk about today, because I feel like it's very personal, your habits and your routines. I don't feel like I'm in a position to tell you what are good habits and what are good routines. I think as mothers, we are constantly striving to find that balance between what is doable, what is ideal, and what eventually happens. And with habits and routines, this is something that is very personal to each family. I know that in some families with the homeschool, they probably aren't as strict with how we learn and the routine that we go by, but their children did just fine. So it's never been my goal in speaking with parents to interject what I think is a good habit or a good routine, but to ask parents to pay attention to the habits and the routines that they set up in their house. Because, believe it or not, these behaviors will carry over into adulthood. My oldest son became a first-time father at the age of 45. And their little girl, Vesper, she just turned a year old. She is his project. Everything is about Vesper. Everything that they do. They live in New York City, and so during quarantine, and they're still semi-quarantined, it was the Vesper show. As far as Vesper knew, nothing changed. Now, I asked Matthew what were some of the routines, and I did. I asked all of my children to share with me the routines and habits they remember from childhood. And I was really quite happy to hear that some of the things that I thought were important, they have continued into their adulthood. But Matthew said, I'll quote, "Right now, Mom, it's all about naps and trying to make sure her bedtime routine, a bath, nursing, her teeth brushed, saying goodnight to Mommy, reading books with Daddy, and then a lay down in her bed is followed. She sleeps better when we do all the steps." See, he's gone through a Vesper checklist, if you will, a Vesper pre-flight. And I find that to be so endearing because he understands that that's important for Vesper. So my point is, for you as parents, understand which habits and which routines are important for your family. And then those are the ones you want, to capitalize on. Think about it this way. That there's a saying that says, never teach to a child's weaknesses. Always teach to their strengths. Never teach to their weakness, teach to their strength. For example, if your child is struggling with a particular subject, don't call out that subject. Find the subject that they are very strong in and use that subject to call out the one they're weak in. So we want to do the same with habits and routines. We want the habits to be a positive thing in their life that they will carry through to adulthood. And we want the routines to be as positive as well. As my mother passed away recently, 2 years ago, she was 91. And she had a curious habit, and you could say it was a routine. When she finished the dishes, she would wring the dishcloth out really tight and then spread it out on the counter to dry. And if you went to visit one of her sisters, there would be the dishcloth spread out on the counter to dry. I did that when we first got married. I thought that's how it was done. That was my habit. And my husband said, "Why do you do that?" He didn't understand it. Well, I still do it, knowing I do it mainly as a remembrance of my mom. When I spread out that washcloth, I just can see that that habit is something I want to continue, as to remember my mother. So we want these habits and these routines to be comforting for children. We want them to be doable, that they take into their adult life. Doing your homework before you watch television or get on your screen, that's a great habit. That's a great routine. Setting the table before you have your dinner, that's a great routine. So think about the habits and routines. Just observe and see what you do as a family. But let's get to something that's near and dear to me, and that's the beautiful. Ritual. What is a ritual? A ritual is not a routine, and it's not a habit. It's an elevated procedure. It's an elevated ceremony. It has deeper meaning. It is meant to touch you spiritually. It's meant to give you an awareness of the spiritual, of something more important. All of us can certainly relate to that. A ritual. Some people would say, like a birthday party is a ritual. It's meant to celebrate a person's birth. Some families, this ritual must follow a certain way. There must be a cake and candles and a present. That's fine. That's a ritual for that family. But let's think just a little bit deeper. When we practice a ritual with our children, we are giving them a means to have peace in their adult life. We're giving them something that is comforting. Let us think for a moment about going to Mass. Now, going to the holy sacrifice of the Mass can be routine, can it? Sunday morning, 8 o'clock, get dressed, let's go to Mass. And I know myself, I have fallen into that routine. With 10 children, it was a real important routine that we all got up and got to church with our shoes on. Some of the kids would show up with, their shoes. I left my shoes at home. All I've got is my flip-flops from the pool. But here's the thing. When all of this quarantine started and we could no longer go to Mass in our community, it was a great sorrow, emptiness. Maybe it had become routine for me. My husband is a deacon, so I rarely am able to sit with him in Mass. So I thought about that. This ritual of going to Mass on Sunday morning had suddenly been taken away. And even though we could watch it virtual and all of that, it wasn't the same. In our family, praying the rosary in the evening was a very important ritual. And we've done it for, I like to say, 100 years. When the kids were little, it was more difficult. I found that if I turned out the lights and lit a candle, that maybe the little people wouldn't wander, they'd stay close. And when children started, siblings started to go off to college, we would say, well, we always pray the rosary at 8:30. So at 8:30, please pray the rosary. Well, realistically, probably they did not pray, stop what they were doing and pray the rosary at 8:30. But they have told me sometimes they would, and sometimes they would just remember that it was 8:30, or it would become 8:30 wherever they were, and it would begin to feel like, oh, I need to think about home. And that beautiful ritual of cozying up in the living room, praying the rosary, would come back to them. Now, one of our boys was off at college, and he was the RA of the dorm, very busy, and he's just that way. He can never have too much to do. He's the one that's a nurse practitioner now. And but that first year of college was very difficult. When you come from a large family and you're surrounded by all your siblings most of the time, and then you are used to a certain ritual, and that ritual is taken away, and your routines are kind of upended and all of this. And he told me that even though he didn't kneel down and pray the rosary, just holding the rosary at night made him feel connected to all of us. And he knew that we were praying for him. So I feel like when it comes to making rituals in families, I feel like it's very important to make those things, make the actions that you make into rituals to be important, centered, given the sacredness that is due them. Not a lot. Everything can't be a ritual, but a ritual is deeper. And when we talk about the beautiful, we've talked about the good habits and the truth of a good routine, but when we talk about the beautiful, now really, why are we homeschooling? Ask yourself this, why am I doing this? I have a daughter who's has a master's degree in education, and she teaches in the public school system. And there was never a better teacher than my daughter, Margaret. She's the oldest of 10, and I'm telling you how she can get a second grade classroom ready to do multiplication tables and read a book, I'll never know. She's got wonderful teaching skills. So I don't think that we teach in the homeschool because we think we're superior to the teachers. The other thing is, I don't think we homeschool because we should never homeschool because we're afraid of what's going on in the schools or in the world. God did not give us a spirit of fear. So I don't think homeschooling out of fear is necessarily beautiful. And I don't think you'll be able to create beautiful memories if it's done from fear. The reason I enjoyed homeschooling as much as I did, I really enjoyed spending time with my children. I really liked being around them. They were the best entertainment, the best group of people. I used to say that being with them all day was much better because I just thoroughly enjoyed their company. I liked being in charge of how much time we spent together. Certainly, as they got older, there was swim lessons and swim team and soccer and things pulling them away from the little cocoon that I had tried to create in homeschooling. And I wasn't necessarily sad, but it was melancholy. There goes another one off to college. There goes another one off to college. And the circle was getting smaller and smaller, But the ritual of us being together, the ritual of loving on them and just really enjoying watching them every day, I think for me was the beautiful. And I would never pretend to say that my children received from me the best education they could have gotten. But I think, now they haven't written a book and they haven't been interviewed by Oprah Winfrey, so all that may change. But I think the cozy, the being together, the just being able to talk to them when you want to, working as a team, I think those things have helped them more than if I was able to teach algebra efficiently. You know, there's a joke about your dad teaching algebra at the kitchen table. Well, it's not a joke in our house, it's real. And I think those things have helped them as adults. All of them all of them have graduated from college, but that's not the big deal. The deal is that they are working in fields that they're very good at and that they really thoroughly enjoy. They're all good team members. They work in fields that require teamwork. They're helpers. They help people. I have 5 children that are in the healthcare field, from being a phlebotomist in a clinic to a nurse practitioner. I have a son that is a telemetry technician. He watches heart monitors, and Joseph is his name. And a more patient child you will never meet than Joseph. He could walk in a room and the irritation level in that room would drop because he exuded patience. And here he spends all day watching 7 or 8 monitors of patients who are critically ill. Martin, the one that's a nurse practitioner, he likes to do 10 things at once. And it's perfect for him because he's a very busy man and he has a lot going on. So I have a son that has a PhD in math. He works in a technical field. The point is they enjoy what they do, and they bring the exuberance and joy of what they do into their profession and into their lives. Like I said, we just got back from our beach vacation. And when they're all together like that, I just sit and I just look and I listen. And it's not like I'm longing to shrink them into the little people they used to be. I'm so happy that they're adults. But it does make me realize it's not a lot different than when we were all together in the homeschool. That's the beautiful. To me, that's the beautiful. I asked them to tell me some of the things that they remember, and I'm going to share them with you because I think they're really great. And maybe you'll find in this some little inspirations that you might like to do. All right, Joseph, the very patient son, he would read aloud after lunch while his siblings colored, crafted, or, something like this. And all of them remembered that. And he read The Travels of Marco Polo, and they all remembered that. The Phantom Toll Booth, and he used to love to read The Stinky Cheese Man to the little people. And in the homeschool, I would say, Joseph, go read to your little brothers and sisters. Oh, he would be thrilled. So this reading out loud, this coziness, dinners at night all together as a family. And see, I always felt pushed to put food on the table and to get everybody fed. I mean, 10 children, that's a lot of people to prepare food for. And but they didn't remember all of the work. They remembered all of us sitting around the kitchen table talking while we ate. Homeschool lunch. Everyone would take a walk except the one designated person who had to make lunch for everybody while everybody else went for a walk. And the crazy thing about this is the daughter who remembered this, her first degree, she's a culinary chef. She's a pastry chef. She loved to cook. So a lot of times she would volunteer to make the lunch while the rest of us went for a walk. Here's one from the youngest daughter. Hiding the Halloween candy. Yes, they went trick-or-treating, and when they'd come in, I'd confiscate all the candy. And we had this game. They made it into a game. See, they took my habit of hiding the Halloween candy and they turned it into an important ritual. But I would confiscate all their candy and hide it. And then, because I didn't want them gorging themselves and eating it. And then when I would run an errand or I'd go for a walk, it was a big treat for them to search through the house and see if they could find where I'd hidden it. When I'd come back, it'd be on the kitchen table and they would say, "We found the candy." And then they'd want me to hide it again. I don't think they ever ate the candy as much as they just loved the ritual of me hiding it and them trying to find it. Now, she's the baby of the family, so she would remember that. In the homeschool, here's another one. We used to do a thing called the 5 o'clock cleanup. Now, this was a habit. It wasn't a ritual. At the end of the homeschool day, boom, we were done. And all the books got put away, and we did 5 o'clock cleanup. That meant everybody got an area of the house, and that was your area to clean. But school was finished. No more school. We didn't do homework. We didn't talk about it. It was done. And I became mom, not teacher mom. And we would make tea, and I'd, cookies or something like that, and sit around and listen to the radio. Now, I know that sounds like Little House on the Prairie, but my children really enjoyed listening to, they really enjoyed listening to these stories that were on NPR. They like documentaries and things like that. So we would sit around and listen to those things, and they really, really enjoyed that. And so several of my children mentioned tea time and 5 o'clock cleanup. Joseph and Martin, they're the two that are the closest in age. And those of you who have children who have large families know that certain children pair up with others. And Joseph and Martin always would pair up. And their responsibility was to walk the dog. And we always said the dog because we had lots of dogs. And there was always the dog. And they would go for these long walks. And Martin said, now Martin's a grown man now, married and everything. And he would say, he still says, that time with Joseph, walking the dog. See, for him, that was almost a ritual. It was sacred. They were adolescents and preteens, and then they became teenagers. And then, but this walking the dog, and the one dog they walked all the time was named Holly. She was a little terrier. And when Martin went away to college, he of course couldn't take Holly, but after he got out of college, he came back home and got Holly, and Joseph went and lived with him. And while Joseph was in college, so he said for him, that was a very almost sacred time when he could be alone with Joseph walking the dog. My one son raised birds, and I had this routine at night. All of them took piano, and we had one piano. So everybody had their allotted piano practice time. And this one son that raised birds, he would be allowed to practice first, but first he had to do his birds. So while we were on vacation, I said, what was the thing I used to say every night? And he would say, oh, I got it. You would say, Michael, do your birds. Maria, practice the piano. Because Michael would do his birds, Maria would practice the piano, then they'd flip, then another child would practice, and it would take, 2 or 3 hours for all of them to get through the piano practicing. But he said, me doing my birds, he said, I cleaning their cages and talking to them and all that kind of thing. So I just thought that was really sweet that he remembered. For me, that was a necessary routine, but for him, he said, I'll never forget your voice. It's in my head. Michael, do your birds. Maria, practice the piano. I think when we look at our homeschool, when we look at where our children will be when they leave the homeschool, I think these rituals, let me just say that we know sorrow is going to enter everyone's life. And it's the rituals that will bring us comfort. It's not necessarily the routines or the habits, but it's those rituals that will bring us comfort. When have a sorrow time, just holding the rosary, it's like holding the Blessed Mother's hand. Nearly all my children mention the rosary at night. They didn't necessarily say going to Mass. Maybe I made it too much of a routine and less of a ritual. I have 10 children. Some of them are practicing Catholics, some of them are not, but all of them are on a journey, and all of them want to talk about their faith. I take great comfort in that. I think they know from the homeschool that we will talk to them about these difficult subjects. I do want to hear what they're doing. I do want to know about their struggles. I do want to know how they feel about the Catholic Church. But what gives me great comfort is that they know that the ritual of us being together and talking with one another is more important to me than the things that I may or may not have taught them in the homeschool. I think in the homeschool, I was able to create an importance around these very, very necessary times with my family. So now as adults, we are able to sit and talk because it's not unfamiliar to us. While we were on vacation, I saw a commercial, and it was a teenager, and we don't have television. So when we go on vacation, I get to watch TV, which is boring, and I don't usually do it. But I saw this commercial, and it was a teenager standing there, and the gist of it was, Mom, you can talk to me. Mom, Dad, you can, talk to me about important things. Let me ask you questions. And it just made me sad in a way that we have to encourage our children to talk to their parents. So even now as adults, I may not like everything they have to share with me. I may not understand every part of their journey, but I do think fostering the beautiful, which was for me, creating the ritual of being together, of praying the rosary at night, no matter what went on, we're all going to cozy up here in the living room and we're going to pray, because the Blessed Mother has told us there are no walls or distance separate us when we pray together. So for me, I'm sure that when they write their book, they're not going to say I was an amazing math teacher or an amazing geometry teacher, whatever. But I hope they do remember that there were certain habits I tried to instill: buckle your seatbelt, wash your hands before you eat, comb your hair, brush your teeth. Certain routines: Michael, do your birds, Maria, practice the piano. We're not done till we're all done, so let's get this done. 5 o'clock cleanup. You do better work if you're in a clean house. Put your stuff away. These were routines. Here's how we do the dishes. Great. But it's the beautiful. I love you. I want to talk to you. I want you to talk to me. Let us spend time together. School's finished. I'm not teacher mom. Let's sit and talk. And before I conclude, I wanted to share with you my favorite scripture, and one that I encourage all homeschooling moms to memorize. Put it right up in your mind. Know that, to me, this is the credo for why you homeschool. Rejoice in the Lord always. This is from Philippians 4. Rejoice in the Lord always. I shall say it again, rejoice. Your kindness should be known to all. The Lord is near. Have no anxiety at all, but in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, make your request known to God. Finally, brothers, now this is the cream, I like to say. Whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is gracious, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Think about these things. So when we are homeschooling, think about the beautiful. Yes, we need the good. Yes, we need the true. But it's the beautiful. It's the beautiful that we want to bring to our homeschooling experience. We want to think about how good our children are. We don't want to think about, well, he doesn't do very well in English, or this, I need to get him to do better. You know, I need him to be smarter, or he's never going to go to college if he can't do this. No. Because at the end of the day, now, like I said, I have 10 children. The youngest is in her mid-20s, and the oldest is 46. You know, they're very bonded to one another. That warms my heart. It sounds, I mean, people ask me all the time, how do you get your children to be so bonded to one another? I don't know. I had 10 children in a small house. It sounds like the start of a murder mystery, I guess. But, you know, once upon a time, there were 10 children in a small house, or a great story. You know, 5 boys in one bedroom, 5 girls in one bedroom. I think that could make some people uncomfortable, but for me, we tried to make it beautiful. We tried to make their life beautiful. And for me, that's what homeschooling was, the most unique opportunity for me to do that. And to pass on my faith through my love of the faith, not every day talking it to them, but living it in conversations that they would bring up, and just letting them know that faith is a journey, and I'm here to listen. And even now, today, when they all get together, oh, the jokes they tell on me and Ronald, and the stories they tell about growing up. And I'm so glad that that is where they are now. And so the good, the true, but it's the beautiful. That's what we want to give our children. And I'm going to share with you a prayer that we've been praying every night during this time. All of the children, you know, we passed it out, and everybody, they say they're praying it. And it's a prayer that I got from a Dominican mother house. I went for a retreat, and when they did their evening prayer, this was one that they said, and I liked it so much. This is 100 years ago I got this. Our Lady of this house, pray for us. O Holy Mary, Virgin Mother of God, who was conceived without sin, we choose you this night as Lady and Mistress of this house. We beseech you by your Immaculate Conception to preserve us from pestilence, virus, fire, and water, from lightning and tempest, from robbers, schism, heresies, earthquakes, and to sudden death. Bless and protect, O Holy Virgin, this house and all who dwell here, and obtain for us the grace to avoid all sin and every other misfortune and accident. Amen. Now, I have concluded, so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Hi, Rita. Thank you for that inspiring talk. We do have some questions here. And
Great.
The first one is, says, love routine and habits. I'm all about that. My daughter gets bored when we don't change the routine. I try to change it once in a while, and she gets real excited. Is this okay to do?
Absolutely. That's the nice thing about routines, Mom, is that you're in charge of it. Absolutely. She sounds like Martin, the one that, I mean, he got a degree in psychology, then he got a degree in nursing, and then he became a nurse practitioner. He had to change the routine. In fact, in his remembrance, he said, walking with Joseph was the best, the 5 o'clock cleanup, not so much. So he remembered it as not being that much fun, but the walk with Joseph. So absolutely, that's the beautiful. you have to know where your little girl is. Oh, absolutely. I think that's great.
Thank you, Rita. We have another one here. How do I stay ahead of what I need to teach and what my kids need to learn?
Oh, well, first of all, that you want to do that, that's amazing. That's the beautiful. For me, I did that one day a week. I would either try to do it on Sunday afternoon or, you know, Friday night, whatever suited me. But I would try, at the end of every day, when we did the end of school, I would say, bring me your planner. So I would look through what I had assigned, like on Sunday night, I went through all their planners. And then each day after they put their books up, they'd bring me their planner. And I would look and make sure we covered all the bases. Now, obviously, you know, it's reliant on what type of curriculum or what you're doing. But I feel like staying ahead of it is just a matter of, you know, organization and what works for you. I used to tell one of the kids, had a piano teacher, and he wanted this particular child wanted to learn how to play the guitar. And so I said to the piano teacher, I'll pay you extra if you teach him piano and guitar. She said, well, I've never played the guitar. I said, well, just stay 2 pages ahead of him. You'll be fine. And she did. And at the end of it, she said, I didn't think I could teach the guitar, but you were right. I just stayed 2 pages ahead of him. So just try to stay ahead of and, you know, look down the road. If a major holy day is coming up, factor that in, but know that you're going to do great. You're going to stay ahead and you're going to be perfect. You're going to do fantastic because you know your child.
Thank you. Okay, we have another one here, and this mom is asking what to do with 5-year-old who whines when it's time to learn.
Oh, golly. Oh, golly, you and I should get together. All right, so when this COVID thing happened, my daughter is an essential worker. She's a phlebotomist in the clinic, and she had to go to work and do COVID testing, blah, blah, blah. And her husband is a chef, and he is a chef at the college up on the, you know, about 40 minutes from here. And when they sent all the kids home, there were 80 foreign students who couldn't leave, and so he had to go and cook. Thing is, she went in one direction, he went in the other, and she dropped off her kids. And so I had the 5-year-old, the 4-year-old, and almost 2-year-old every day. Now, her little boy, Noah, he'd been in preschool, right? And he had this structure in the little preschool that he went to, which was amazing, and everybody was fine. Now they sent home this big pile of stuff, and I was to homeschool. Oh, me. So I started off with the pile of stuff that they sent. And you're right, it was hard. He would whine. I think he knew I was the weak link. And so my daughter, the one that's a teacher, she was doing distance learning with her classroom. She said, Mother, why are you spending so much time? She said, a 5-year-old only needs an hour of instruction. I said, you're kidding. She said, Mother, you homeschooled. Don't you remember that? And she said, you get to the basics. What is it you want them to know? And I said, well, by looking at all this stuff, I think they want him to, his alphabet and sight words and how to count and his colors. She said, then focus on that. She said, put away all that other stuff. So I did. And our time together was much easier. Another trick I had was I set the timer on my phone. And I'd say to little Noah, we're going to sit here at the table and we're going to do this in the playroom here. And your brother, who's 4, he's going to try and do it with us. And the baby's going to get to wander around. But we're only going to do this, you know, for a certain amount of time. And at the end of that, we're going to put it all away. Well, he thought about it. He said, okay, that I can agree to. And so we did. And we did great. The whining stopped because I think it was important for him to know, here's what you're going to do. Here's how long it's going to take us. And when we're done, we're done. Now, in the middle of COVID, believe it or not, the day before Mother's Day, he broke his arm. And so now I'm teaching him and he's got this gimpy arm. And the first day he had his cast and everything, I said, okay, let's do school, buddy. And he held up his little gimpy arm and he said, I can't possibly do school. I have a broken arm. I said, no, we can do it. Well, we can do it. So he was even looking for, but then when he realized, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to do this. We're going to do it for a certain amount of time. And when it's done, it's done. And I want you to know, she still doesn't know what they're going to do with school. The school system still hasn't declared, but he knows his whole alphabet. He knows sight words. He obviously knows his colors, and he knows math. And, she was right. My oldest daughter was right. She said, Mother, an hour of good concentrated is all you need. So that would be my best piece of advice. And encourage them, why are you whining? What is it that makes you angry? Why are you sad right now? Tell me why you don't like this. And they'll tell you. Oh, they'll tell you. And I don't believe in giving rewards very much. I never did that. I never gave my children an allowance, and we'd try stickers and all that kind of stuff, and it would last for a little bit and I'd get bored and we wouldn't do it. So the main thing I would say to my children, and then what I said to Noah, was we have to do this, and we have to do it for a certain amount of time. And when that time is up, it's up. And I'm not going to chase you around all day long trying to get you to do it. When it's in it, when it's over, it's over. And over the course of time, he learned everything he was supposed to learn. And I felt much more peaceful and beautiful teaching, knowing that, we learned an hour. And the best way to teach a 5-year-old math is to give them 3 cookies and tell them they can only eat 1. I mean, there's a lot of ways to incorporate that to them, but they're only 5. They've only been on the planet 5 years. 5, that's little. That's a little person. That would be all I would say about that.
Thank you. Well, speaking of that young of an age, we have a mom wondering if you remember the title of the preschool book, To Support Teaching the Right Way and the Wrong Way. Do you have?
You mean the one I just now talked about?
Yes.
Oh, there's a Mennonite company. Oh, it's in Kentucky. It's either Amish or Mennonite. Oh, I can't remember, but they're in Kentucky. And it was a book that came with a curriculum from SCCHE. I think it was one. And but what I can do, I mean, it's right over there in my homeschool books. I have I saved out the best, and I saved that. And it's great. It's awesome. It even shows an elderly person in a wheelchair. How do you push? Esther pushes the wheelchair, and just beautiful little things. So I tell you what I will do. I will get it and I will send it to you. I'll, email it, the title to you, and then make sure but it's a homeschool group in Kentucky. And they even had a science curriculum. I ordered their science curriculum. It wasn't part of any curriculum. I just did it on my own. But the problem was it was for high school, and they didn't teach about men landing on the moon. And so my son said, Mother, he was in high school. He said, Mother, we cannot do this. And I said, well, I don't know why they've left that part out. So we changed. Anyway, that's a funny story. But yes, I will get that title to you. And it's all about good manners and the right way of doing things and the wrong way of doing things, how to share, how to never grabbing from a friend, Esther and Rachel doing the dishes. It's just so sweet.
Thank you. I will send that to the mom, and maybe we could post it on the website too for others.
Super. Good.
Okay. And I think we have time for one more question. What is the best way to develop a routine for 2 girls with a big grade gap? So one is in 10th grade and the other is in 6th grade.
Oh, how lovely. 10th grade and 6th grade. Well, they're going to both have different routines, right? Because that 10th grader is all going to be all about her hair and how she smells. And that sixth grader is just now getting into her hair and how she smells. So I think you have to appreciate that you're probably not going to be able to do things with them together. But to me, this is a lot like do your birds practice the piano? If you have one bathroom, and we had one bathroom upstairs for all of the children, they all had to share the bathroom. So it was understood that Margaret, the oldest, it was all about her hair. So she went last because she was going to top the whole bathroom with her hair. And I think I think one of the most beautiful things about having children is their uniqueness, and a routine for your sixth grader is going to look different than a routine for your 10th grader. And the fact that they're far apart in age is actually a great blessing. I think it's really a wonderful thing. Sisters are the best. They're so lovely for each other. When we went on vacation, Megan, my daughter, she's a dental hygienist, and she couldn't go because her quarantine COVID thing ended and she had to go back to work. So I took Lucy and Olive, her daughters, with me on vacation. Now Olive is she's in the 3rd, 4th grade, and Lucy's much older. She's going into 6th grade. So Lucy is all about her hair and getting it combed just right and taking a shower every night and doing her nails. Olive could care less. And so we have to celebrate the difference between the two of them. So they had a little bathroom, and I would say, Lucy, you go last, because Olive doesn't take as long as you. So I think that's the joy of childhood. That's the joy of children. I have a really good friend. She says she had 10 children too. She lives here in the same town. She homeschooled as well. And everybody used to get us mixed up and think I was her and she was me. But she has a saying, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. Embrace the little. So that's a little problem. Embrace it, love it, enjoy it. Do whatever works, talk to the 10th grader and say, your sister needs to get in the bathroom. Or when it comes to homeschool, 10th grader needs a little bit more privacy. Go back to your desk and work for 2 or 3 hours and then come out and let me see what you've done. You just have to do that. I mean, I had the same thing. I had children with huge age gaps, and I don't know, it all evens out towards the end as they get older. You wouldn't even know there was a difference in their ages. One of the things I wanted to tell you is that one of the bad habits I had as a mother is I always fast forwarded, worst case scenario. If the kids were late with the car, I fast forwarded to visitation at the funeral home. And I have been working very hard through my life to get rid of that habit. And I want you to know that when we went on vacation this past week, my daughter and her brand new husband rented these paddle boards. And so they decided to take them way out in the ocean. And I said to Tyler, her husband, well, if she dies out there, at least you'll die together. And I was okay. But then the 4-year-old and the 5-year-old wanted to go on the paddle boards. Now their mother wasn't down at the beach. I was all by myself with them. So I said, I made an executive decision. I said, okay, you can go, put on a life jacket. And when they got way out in the blue water and I could barely see them, I thought, that was a bad idea, Rita. You've jumped off a cliff. But I wouldn't let the devil grab that moment. I said to the devil, get behind me. Look how much fun they're having. Look at how excited they are. It's going to be fantastic. Well, they were out there for about an hour. And when they came back, it was all of that. And so I think with our homeschooling and with our mothering, don't let the devil grab a little problem and make it big. Be joyful, be beautiful. It's going to be great. All of you are going to do a fantastic job. You're going to have amazing children who are going to do amazing things. You really are, because God wants to see you succeed. He does not want you to fail. He wants you to succeed. He's given you everything you need to succeed. He gave you your children specifically to you because he knew you would succeed, and he was going to give you everything you needed. And that's my parting word. I love you all, and you're going to do fantastic. You're going to be great.
Thank you so much, Rita. I think during these difficult times, we really needed to hear that. We really need your encouragement.
Oh,
So
you're going to
if you would like to reach Rita, you can find her through Catholic Heritage Curricula's website, which is chcweb.com. That's chcweb.com.